Okay. Good day, everyone, and welcome to a new series that I'll be doing that is specifically for YouTube. Now, to get started, have you ever had something happen that you could not explain? If you've listened to the podcast, you would have heard my stories and stories from other guests that I've had. If not, check the episodes out. I'll link them below. That is way too slow, too. Hold on. It's increased to 15. Okay, there you go. So, if you haven't, check it out. There's always I got people doing personal stories and things like that, so you'll always be able to see something. I'm still working on getting guests. I do have a celebrity guest coming in August. Oh, I can't wait! I'm so excited. I haven't told anyone who it is. Very few people know who it is. I think if you're in my channel on Instagram, you'll know who it is. Okay, back to what I was doing. As of 2013, between 60 and 62% of Hispanics and African Americans believe in ghosts. That's a huge difference, right? Now, this first episode is ghost encounters from Latin America within the entire Hispanic community and Latin American communities. Okay. So, like always, it's always about what's within our community. Within the Latin American community, ghost stories and the belief in the supernatural is just an everyday part of life. I was told these stories growing up, and there's businessmen who, before meetings, will go for a spiritual cleansing to strengthen their chances in whatever dealings they are doing for that day. So there are parts of Mexico where people line up, and it's like going to a Starbucks for them. They just go and boom, boom, boom. They get their prayers and their cleansings, and they off to work. As newer generations are born, those beliefs tend to dwindle down, but there's a small sect in Mexico that still hold these traditional values. There are currently new influencers and people on social media that pray to the old gods and the beliefs that were once held. There's still a lot more that don't believe in the old superstitions. With technology and social media, that is what is being used as proof that there is no paranormal activity. But that also proves that there's a lot more. But again, digital manipulation, things like that. Even though a lot of the Hispanic communities have a strong spiritual belief in the paranormal. So even though there's a doubt, it is still built into us. So here's a few stories that I found, starting with one of the most famous ones. I want to make it clear. Hold on. Starting with one of the most famous ones. Now, this story I am reading is a story that I found on Reddit. They were like 711 is their username. It's spelled differently. I forgot to click to check it. But yeah, so this is from them. So as starting from this point on, I am reading as them. I want to make it clear this is a story my dad once told me. He's an immigrant from Mexico, and he shared this with me a few years ago. He was about 14 when it happened. One day his mom sent him and his brother, let's call his brother Juan, to the other side of town to get medicine for their sick sister. Everything was going fine until they got to the first store and it was closed. So they went looking for another. Finally, they found one that had the medicine, but here's where it gets strange. Juan spotted one of his friends across the street and just left my dad to go hang out with him. So now my dad's upset, walking about half a mile back home by himself. On his way, a man dressed in all black approached him. The man was on a black horse and asked him in Spanish, "Are you heading to such and such place," right? So I'm not going to give out any names to reveal privacy. The man's face was hidden by his hat, so my dad never saw it. My dad said yes. By this point, the sun was low and he'd been walking almost all day. The man offered him a ride. My dad, being cautious, had a small blade in his pocket just in case. But he agreed and climbed onto the horse. Right away, he felt like he was floating. The man said, "I advise you to hold on." And something told my dad to listen. The second he grabbed on tight, the horse took off, faster than anything natural. My dad said the ground seemed to fade beneath him, and within seconds, they were in front of his house. Every dog in the neighborhood started barking like crazy. My dad jumped off the horse, ran inside, and locked all the doors. When he peeked out, the man was gone. The dogs went quiet, and he heard the horse neigh once before everything went still. He told my grandpa what had happened. My grandpa grabbed his rifle and ran outside, but he didn't tell my dad what he saw that night. He just asked where Juan was and told my dad to have his mom lock herself in a room. My dad stayed inside with them. Everything is silent. About 30 minutes later, my grandpa came back inside. When my dad asked what happened, he just said Juan was staying the night somewhere else. My dad didn't learn the truth until 20 years later. What my grandpa saw was the man at the corner looking up at him, and when the man lifted his head, his face wasn't normal. It was a skull. My grandpa said that the skull smiled at him before riding off into the darkness. My dad doesn't know exactly what it was or who it was, but that is the day that my dad saw El Charro Negro. Now, El Charro Negro is a very well-known ghost story in Mexico. There's so many sightings, and it's a all black horse with a guy in a charro uniform with the skull, and he is said to appear to people at crossroads in their lives, and he's usually there to punish people doing bad. So for him to help was a different thing, but the brother ended up missing. That's kind of what happened to him. So yeah, it's one of those things, right? The next one is by far one of the most documented cases in Mexico. It's about a nurse known as La Planchada, the ironed one, or the flattened one. Not because she was flattened, but because her uniform is nice, pressed, and clean. The legend begins in the 90s. Her name was Eulalia, Eula. She was one of the best nurses there, took great pride in her work, and always came presentable in a pressed uniform. One day she met a young doctor, and the two of them hit it off. They were soon engaged. One day the young doctor left to a seminar in another town. A week had passed, and he had not returned. She was worried, but she knew he would return. Then another week passed, and she believed something must have happened to him. She could not get a hold of him or anything, right? She was racked with worry. Weeks had passed before she finally learned the doctor's fate. It turns out that he had met a woman in that town. He became enamored with her and married her. Eulalia became depressed, heartbroken, and ill. Her work began to suffer, and soon the worst happened. A patient died under her care. Soon she became gravely ill and passed away. She was so guilt-ridden she couldn't fight for her own life, and she passed away. Soon thereafter, strange things began happening at the hospital. Hospital staff and patients soon began reporting seeing her in the emergency room, and when anyone saw her, they said that her footsteps cannot be heard. Whether she was floating or just gliding across the floor, no one could hear her. Now, she not only appears and haunts the hospital, but she still remains true to her duties. Whenever patients are neglected late at night, she appears to them and heals them in the morning. Heals them. In the morning, when asked how they're feeling, it's always that they're feeling better, and to thank the night nurse and the freshly pressed uniform. Now that's very chilling, right? Like, I got goosebumps on that one. And I read the story. I read it and I didn't get goosebumps, but reading it out loud, it gave me goosebumps. That's crazy, right? Let's continue. So what do these stories show us? Whether it's El Charro Negro, the mysterious dark horseman, or La Planchada, the ghostly nurse who still tends to the sick, these legends aren't just spooky tales. They're woven into the fabric of everyday life and Latin culture. There's a deep respect, even a fascination for the idea that the spiritual world walks alongside us. For many in the Hispanic community, the line between the living and the dead isn't so clear. It's blurred, and it's personal. These stories aren't just about fear, they're about faith, tradition, love, betrayal, guilt, and redemption. And even today, with technology trying to explain everything away, these tales remind us that there are still mysteries out there that science can't quite touch. They remind us of our roots, of the power of storytelling, and of the unseen forces that have always been a part of our culture. So, that's it, right? And hey, I want to hear your stories. I stuttered on that one. I can't. Let's try that one more time. And hey, I want to hear your stories. Have you or someone in your family had an encounter you just couldn't explain? Drop it in the comments. I read them all. And who knows, maybe your story will be featured in a future episode. Also, if you're into this kind of content, check out my other videos. I'll link them all in here, or check out my channel. Always check that out. There's always stuff going on. And I'll link it below like always, or probably somewhere right here in the corner with the title card, right? Thanks for watching, and stay spooky, mi gente.